Artificial intelligence, more specifically OpenAI. You've heard of it, you've probably used it, but behind the scenes, OpenAI is a case study in something way bigger. What happens when the most valuable thing a company owns is a model trained on half the internet? Who actually owns that IP? The one who builds it, funds it, trains it, or maybe queries it? And how do we even begin to price something that's constantly learning? OpenAI isn't just a product. It's an IP engine that challenges everything we know about transfer pricing. In this episode, we will explore how AI changes the way we think about DEMPE, what Microsoft's role really means for IP ownership, and why traditional tax models are breaking. Also maybe what CFOs and tax leads and founders need to start preparing for right now. Because the question isn't if AI will impact global value chains. It's how we measure that value and where it should be taxed. Oh, and a quick intro if we haven't met before. My name is Michael, I'm a lawyer and economist by training, and a business consultant and analyst by profession. And also a business owner, like many of you, probably. I run a company called Prezo. You can check us out at the link provided in the description below. We specialize in transfer pricing, business analysis, and helping small and medium-sized companies to scale by using tested and legal frameworks. We are working with over 100 companies yearly, tech startups, manufacturers, e-commerce sellers, and I get it. You want clarity, you want real answers and recommendations, and most importantly, you want your business to grow without giving half of your profit away in taxes. That's what this channel is about, and that's what Prezo is about. So if you are a growing company trying to scale across borders, structure smarter, just not get crushed by paperwork, this is the place for you. Let's keep going. When you think of OpenAI, what comes to mind? Probably ChatGPT, maybe DALL-E or GPT-4, maybe that moment when you realize it could write your emails better than you. And let's be honest, those emails were probably better than anything you would written since 2018. But here's what I want you to think about instead. Where is the value in all this? And who owns it? Because OpenAI doesn't manufacture anything. It doesn't sell physical goods. It doesn't even fully own its own cloud infrastructure that's handled by Microsoft. So where exactly does the value sit? It sits in the model, in the AI itself. And that model isn't just code. It's billions of parameters trained on petabytes of data, fine-tuned across use cases, wrapped in APIs, and served to users worldwide in real time. That's IP. But it's a new kind of IP, and we haven't figured out how to tax it. Actually, it's so new, even the tax auditors are probably asking ChatGPT for guidance on this one. Because traditionally, when we talk about IP in transfer pricing, we are dealing with software licenses, trademarks, patents, technology like copyrights. OpenAI doesn't quite fit in any of those. GPT-4 isn't patented. There's no trademark on intelligence. And while there is software underneath, what users access is a black box inference engine trained on unstructured data. You don't license GPT-4, you query it. So is it software? Is it a platform? Is it a digital service? Or is it something entirely new? The answer matters because in TP, how you define the thing determines who gets to charge for it, how much they charge, and where that profit lands on the global tax map. If AI is the new oil, then transfer pricing needs to become like a refinery. Let's break down where GPT-like models derive value, functionally speaking, like pre-training, massive compute to train the base model using general data, like reinforcement, learning from human feedback, aligning the model with specific use cases, often human reviewed, and infrastructure, running the model on custom silicon GPUs or optimized cloud stacks. Prompt engineering plus system integration. Creating like maybe interfaces, APIs, wrappers for the real world use, data feedback loops. Actually, every user query improves the model over time. Which of these is development? Which one is exploitation? Who's contributing what? In classic TP logic, we would say IP owner earns residual profit. Developers get cost plus, local entities are distributors or service providers. But in AI, the product evolves constantly, and so does the value. So let's look at the actual structure. OpenAI Inc., the non-profit mission, aligned controller of the group. OpenAI LP, the for-profit operational entity controlled by the non-profit. And Microsoft, a capped profit investor with exclusive rights to certain commercial integrations. Microsoft has poured in over 10 billion but has no equity. Instead, it has access to the models, priority on commercial deployments, and deep integration with Azure. So who owns the IP? OpenAI developed it, Microsoft funded and scaled it. The models run in Microsoft's cloud, but the control lies with the non-profit arm. From a transfer pricing perspective, that's a paradox. If Microsoft bore the cost, shouldn't it own some of the returns? If OpenAI controls the strategy, shouldn't it hold IP? If finally users provide the fine-tuning data, are they contributing to the IP creation? Funding isn't ownership, and in AI, control is harder to pin down than ever. If you are trying to apply standard DEMPE logic to OpenAI structure, here's what happens. Development: OpenAI did the core modeling work, but with Microsoft Compute. Enhancement: ongoing training uses data globally sourced. Maintenance, model updates, and safety tuning are continuous. And protection: there is no patent wall, no formal copyright, mostly like trade secret. Exploitation: APIs, commercial use, and integration, often through Microsoft. Try mapping this to traditional transfer pricing, and you will quickly find out it doesn't fit. And yet, billions in value are being created, APIs are sold, contracts are signed, money is flowing. So what now? Companies like Anthropic, Mistral, Meta, Google, DeepMind, Cohere, all of them are building large language models. And all of them will soon face the same TP questions. Who owns the model? Where is it being trained? Who earns the margin? And how do we document pricing between cloud infrastructure research labs and front-end APIs? And it gets even trickier when models are open source, trained across decentralized teams, fine-tuned in one country and deployed via CDNs or edge inference in another. The old IP means loyalty equal royalty in jurisdiction X model just doesn't cut it anymore. If your value isn't fixed, your pricing model can't be either. So in the next part, we'll go deeper into why DEMPE, the gold standard for IP analysis, breaks down in AI. We'll look at how data becomes value, what counts as development in machine learning, and why the IP of the future might not be owned the way we are used to. Because if tax follows value and AI redefines value, transfer pricing needs to catch up fast. So let's keep going. Let's talk about something sacred in transfer pricing, DEMPE. For years, this has been the gold standard for figuring out who really owns and deserves the profit from IP. It stands for development, enhancement, maintenance, protection, exploitation. I've said it many times already. DEMPE is clear, logical, OECD approved, but now it's also deeply flawed, at least when applied to artificial intelligence, because AI doesn't create value the way traditional IP does, and DEMPE wasn't built for models that learn on their own. Let me show you why. Let's take a standard example. Imagine a company develops a piece of software. The dev team is in Ireland, so that's development. A production team is in Germany, improves it for new markets. Let's call it like its enhancement. A team in the US manages like bugs, updates, maintenance. Legal sits in the UK and defends trademarks, protection. And the product is sold globally through affiliates, so that would be exploitation. Each of those steps can be documented, mapped to a legal entity, and priced accordingly. It's simple, right? Now, try doing that with GPT-4. DEMPE works great until the IP start thinking for itself. It's like trying to explain TikTok trends to your grandparents. The framework just wasn't like designed for that level of rapid, self-evolving complexity. So here is what AI development looks like in reality. A foundation model is trained using massive, unlabeled datasets. Nobody knows exactly which data contributed what value. The model improves itself over time via like backpropagation, fine-tuning, and user reinforcement. Developers don't write features, they train behavior, and users become feedback loops, which modifies the product. Now apply DEMPE. Who developed the model? The engineers, or maybe the people who labeled Reddit data? What country should get credit for value from user queries in Spanish if the model was trained in the US? If reinforcement learning happens through user prompts, is that exploitation or enhancement? So in traditional DEMPE, functions are linear. In AI, they are circular, recursive, and often like opaque. Let's take one simple question. GPT-4 answers questions fluently in French. Where did it learn it from? Was it in French Wikipedia, from Reddit threads, from EU-based users, from supervised fine-tuning by contractors in Africa or Latin America? And more importantly, which jurisdiction contributed the most to that IP? Under DEMPE, you'd look for engineers building features, lawyers filing patents, marketing teams deploying in target markets. But in AI, the model absorbs and mutates knowledge from actually everywhere. There is no line between development and use. This makes it almost impossible to assign value by location unless you radically oversimplify. If a model trains in one country, fine-tunes in another, and learns from users in 100 more, where's the value? Here's another issue: inference. Inference is what happens when you use that model, when you send a prompt and get a reply. It's not selling the model, it's accessing a dynamic function, almost like renting a tiny slice of intelligence for 10 seconds. So in DEMPE terms, is inference exploitation or just a service? Should it be charged like a royalty or like cloud compute? So let's say the model is trained in the US, served via Microsoft Azure globally, acquired by customer in Germany, amped in an app by a company based in the Netherlands. Who owns the value from that prompt? The answer isn't obvious, and DEMPE doesn't give you a clean answer. Here's where it gets even trickier. In AI, users contribute to the product, often without knowing it. Every time you correct an AI's mistake, upvote, a response, or just click regenerate, you are feeding the loop. So here's the question: are your users exploiting the model, or is it the model exploiting your users? In transfer pricing, we don't actually consider users as part of the IP function, but with AI, they generate training data, provide domain-specific signals, help with reinforcement, tuning, create emergent use cases. That's real economic input, and yet it's invisible in most DEMPE-based structures. AI turns users into developers, and that breaks everything we thought we knew about IP attribution. So let's be clear, I'm not saying DEMPE is useless, but if you apply it rigidly to AI, you risk over-allocating value to the engineering hub, ignoring global data and usage signals, mispricing cross-border AI access, missing user-generated IP feedback loops, leaving your structure vulnerable to audit. Instead, we need to start thinking in new dimensions. Training versus inference versus fine-tuning, each with different value logic. Static versus dynamic IP. AI models change after deployment. User contribution as an input to functional analysis, cross-border inference, services as a new revenue type. Here is what I believe the next gen TP model for AI must include. Function by function value attribution, separate training, tuning, inference and deployment, dynamic profit allocation, value shifts over time not just by entity, data contribution mapping. If datasets came from X, it needs to be visible. Hybrid pricing logic, combined royalty, cost plus, and platform commission models all together, using like maybe region adjustments. That's not something DEMPE was designed to handle. AI isn't killing DEMPE, it's forcing it to evolve, just like everything else. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the OpenAI Microsoft relationship. Who really owns what kind of structure is this? Investment, CSA, license or hybrid? And what happened when the company building the future is technically controlled by a non-profit? So let's decode the most valuable partnership in AI. Let's talk about the most influential and most misunderstood partnership in tech today. Microsoft plus OpenAI. This isn't just an investment. It's not a merger. It's not even a traditional joint venture. It's something else. Something that's quietly redefining how value is shared, how IP is monetized, and how we'll structure global tax and transfer pricing around AI. Let me break it down because on the surface, this looks like an unicorn. But underneath is the blueprint for a new kind of economic relationship in the age of intelligent machines. In 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion in OpenAI. Then in 2023, it upped the ante, reportedly committing to another $10 billion in cloud credits, infrastructure, and engineering support. But here's the catch. Microsoft owns no equity in OpenAI LP. Instead, it receives priority to access to OpenAI's models, exclusive rights to commercial deployment via Azure, and capped returns up to a certain threshold, after which profits revert to the non-profit. This is unprecedented. There is no direct shareholding, no IP transfer, no licensing deal in the traditional sense. It's a hybrid. Microsoft is betting billions without owning anything. So who owns GPT-4? Legally, the IP sits with OpenAI LP, the operating entity. That entity is controlled by OpenAI Inc., the non-profit. But Microsoft funds the compute, hosts the models on Azure, builds integrations like into Word, Excel, GitHub, Copilot, generates massive commercial revenue through resale, and OpenAI retains research control, model governance, core safety and alignment systems, the right to stop commercial use if it violates mission objectives. From a TP perspective, we usually ask who owns the IP, then who exploits it, and finally who gets the residual profit. But here that logic breaks, because Microsoft doesn't own the model, doesn't have control over training or release, yet earns massive profit from commercial access. Is that license, a cost-sharing arrangement, a distribution agreement, or a new uncategorized hybrid? Traditional TP relies on contractual clarity. IP owner licenses to a related party. Distributor pays a royalty or resale. margin. Functions and risks are clearly divided, but in OpenAI, Microsoft model, the IP isn't transferred. The value creation is joint, the revenue is split based on access, not cost, and there is no single tested party. Both sides perform key functions. This looks more like a co-development platform relationship than anything in traditional TP playbooks. And it raises huge questions. Should Microsoft be treated as a service provider or as a participant in a cost contribution arrangement? Should OpenAI report royalty income or shared profits? How should cloud hosting be priced when it's bundled with access? There is no one size fits all answers. In the old model, you owned the IP or you paid for it. In AI, you might co-orchestrate it all together. Let's compare it to a cost-sharing arrangement. A common TP structure where two entities share the cost of developing IP and both have the right to exploit it. On paper, this sounds similar. Microsoft funds compute and deployment. OpenAI develops the models. So both benefit commercially. There is no direct IP transfer. But here is the difference. In a CSA, both parties own the resulting IP. In OpenAI's case, Microsoft gets access, not ownership. The control remains with OpenAI Inc., the non-profit, so this isn't a CSA, but it's close. And regulators might treat it that way, or worse, say it doesn't qualify for TP protection at all. That's risky. Here is the practical concern. Which country gets to tax the value created? Let's map it. OpenAI is US-based, Microsoft also US-based, but operates Azure globally. Customers are worldwide. Inference runs in multiple cloud regions. Integrations happens inside Microsoft, GitHub, and so on. Fine-tuning may be done in EMEA or APAC. If OpenAI invoices Microsoft in the US, it might be fully taxable in the US. But what about the revenue from customers in France, Germany, or Japan? Cloud usage costs from Ireland or Netherlands. AI model value deployed inside Microsoft's UK subsidiary. The global nature of deployment breaks the country-by-country logic of classic tax allocation. When AI runs in 40 countries, but the contract lives in one, where to apply the rules, you might be thinking, sure, but we are not OpenAI or Microsoft. Okay, true. But if you are partnering with a cloud provider, co-developing AI models, fine-tuning open source, LLMs with client data, embedding AI in multi-jurisdictional platforms, then you are facing similar questions. Do you structure as a license or reseller model or a royalty arrangement? Allocate value to cloud compute, to data engineering, or to prompt tuning? Recognize income in the IP entity or the platform provider? The OpenAI Microsoft structure isn't just one-off. It's the preview of how future tech companies will partner, share value, and get taxed. In the final section, I'll wrap this up. The core takeaways from OpenAI's models, what this tells us about the future of transfer pricing, and how to stay competitive when the tax world is catching up to tech world. Let's close it out. We've covered a lot, I know, from OpenAI's unusual structure to how Microsoft profits without owning IP, to why DEMPE can't keep up with self-learning models, to how Pillar 1, user-based allocation and DSTs are rewriting global rules, and through all of it, one truth keeps coming back. The way we define value is changing. AI doesn't fit into boxes anymore. It retrains itself, it adapts to the new users, it contributes risk, reward, and function across borders in real time. And transfer pricing as we know it will have to evolve or fall behind. Otherwise, we'll all be stuck trying to fit a supercomputer into a floppy disk drive, wondering why it just won't compute. So here's the bottom line, if you're leading finance, tax, or global operations in AI-powered business, you can't rely on old models. You can't afford to be reactive. You can't assume value sits where it used to. You have to build a structure that's as adaptive as the tech you're deploying. That means mapping the real value chain, pricing each function based on substance, not assumption. Segmenting by training, tuning, and inference. Monitoring using geography and infrastructure risk, and treating TP not just as compliance, but as strategy. Zalando did that for logistics, IP did it for IP, OpenAI and Microsoft are rewriting the rules for AI. Now it's your move. If this episode helped you see the future of transfer pricing more clearly, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Let me know, are you already working with AI in your company? Is your structure ready for user-based allocation and cloud-driven value? What part of OpenAI's model surprised you the most? We've got more episodes coming on CSA, design for AI, DEMPE versus data, real-world audits, and post-BEPS IP migration. So if you are a CFO, tax lead, or founder dealing with this now, reach out. Let's talk before the model hits the scale that attracts some regulatory attention. Because the smartest companies in AI won't just build powerful models, they build structures that keep up. I'm Michael from Prezzo, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.